Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started at the top of the hour, but please put your name and the program where you work and maybe what you do there in the chat box, and we'll get started soon, but we'd love for you to introduce yourself. Hi, Jinx from West Virginia. Thanks for being here. Hi, Peg. Snowy New Jersey. Do you know I was driving today in Maryland and I saw some snowflakes and I thought, oh, wow, it's that time. Nice to see you, Eileen from Montgomery College. We have Desi from Howard, Patricia from Montgomery, Pam from Cecil, Anne, Jay. Hi, Joy. Thank you guys for being here. For those of you who just joined us, we're introducing ourselves in the chat box. We're going to get started now, and I just want to thank you so much for being here. My name is Jamie Harris. I'm an adult education program specialist at the Maryland Department of Labor, and I am just thrilled to facilitate this session, Introduction to GooseChase. Jennifer is really good. She has a lot of knowledge, and so I know you'll get what you need from this session today. Before we jump into the session, I'd like to launch a poll to find out who's here. So let me launch that poll now. Go ahead and respond, please. What is your role in your program? I'm going to leave this up for a few seconds. All right, we have a mix here. All right, so I see some ESL instructors, some ABE instructors. I'll give you guys a few more seconds and then I'll share the results. I see some familiar names in the chat box. It's nice to see you guys here, even if it's seeing you here via the chat box. All right, so let me share these results. We have a lot of ESL instructors, some ABE instructors, some instructional specialists, some program administrators, and other adult ed stakeholders. So thank you for being here on Wednesday at 3. We're thrilled you're here, and I'd love to introduce you to Jennifer Bonsteel, who works at Worcester County Public Schools Adult Education Program, and she's the ESL instructional specialist. If you have any questions during her session, she has areas in the presentation where she'll give time for questions, but you can also type it in the chat box. Also, if you have any technical issues, you can message me directly as a panelist, and I could respond to your questions directly. That's all I have. Jennifer, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jamie. As she mentioned, my name is Jennifer Bonsteel. I am the ESL Instructional Specialist with Worcester County Public Schools. And today I'm excited to introduce you to GooseChase, which allows you to create digital scavenger hunts to be used in the classroom or to be used for professional learning. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, if you could please download the GooseChase app if you're able to, either on a smartphone or on a tablet. The icon looks just like that, and it's available for iOS and for Android. And we'll be using it throughout the session today, just a little bit. It's free, but if you could take the time to download it if you can, that would be great. I'll give you guys a minute to do that, and we'll get started. If you are unable to get the app today, you will still be just fine. But if you can get it, it would probably enhance the session. So if you can't get it today, that's okay, no worries. We'll be able to take care of you that way. But if you can get it, it'll be great. Awesome. Yay, Joy. Okay. Great. Okay, I see lots of got it's starting to happen. Okay, so my goals for today are to not only introduce GooseChase and how to play, but to share with you some of the ways that we've started to use it both for professional learning and in our classrooms. I'm going to walk you through how to build your own game today. And my goal is that by the end of the session, you would feel confident and comfortable going and creating your own game. I hope to have a little bit of time left at the end of the session to answer any questions you may have. There's a lot to GooseChase, and we won't be able to get to every single little detail of it today, but I would like to answer any questions that pop up. And as Jamie mentioned, I have some spots built in where I can hopefully tackle the questions in the chat box as we go along. Great, okay, more got it. Awesome. Okay, GooseChase is a website that allows you to create a digital scavenger hunt, but it plays through the app, and that's a little confusing for some. GooseChase was intended to be mobile. So the idea would be that you would create these missions for students to do that would have them either up and around in the classroom, up and around the school building, on campus, even throughout their homes and their towns. It was developed in the pre-COVID era. So it requires you to play it through an app. You cannot play it on a stationary PC, laptop, computer. You need either a phone or a tablet to do that because you're going to be taking photos and videos, and you need a smart device to do that. A laptop will not work. However, you do build the game on a website. So I know that's confusing for some, but you make it as the game organizer on the computer, and then you play it through the app. Your participants will submit their evidence that they've completed the missions you have set forth for them via text, photos, or videos. There's also a GPS option that I have not used, but that is available as well. And all of your submissions are displayed in a feed, an activity feed very similar to Facebook. Because it's intended for educational uses, there's no commenting in the feed, but they did recently add the ability to like submissions. So you can provide a little bit of feedback if you're playing the game to your other players, your opponents. But there's no commenting, but it still looks very similar to Facebook. I'll show you in a minute. The app also keeps score for you. If you're not interested in playing a competitive game, we've used it, the points just to indicate, you know, if you've reached this number of points, you've completed the activity or you get credit for the assignment. So if you don't want to play in a competitive mode, you could still use the scorekeeping. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about how Worcester County has used GooseChase so far, and hopefully give you some ideas for how you might use it in your program. We started actually with a professional learning. We had intended to meet in person, face-to-face, to do a workshop where we explored Maryland's digital literacy framework. And we were planning on brainstorming together as a group and breaking down the different elements and what they mean. And of course, COVID, we were not able to meet face-to-face. And so we were left with the challenge of how can we still deliver all this content in a meaningful way when we cannot be all together. And it was obviously May 2020 was more of a stressful time. We were in the stay-at-home order and just a lot going on. And so we opted to use a GooseChase. We took everything that we had set out to do in our professional learning and just made a mission out of each one of those things. So we took each element of the digital literacy framework and we challenged our instructors to go through the document and, well, what does technical mean? What is communicative? What is civic? And how can we integrate that into our instruction? What are we strongest in? What do our students need the most help in? And each one of those items became a mission. And so our instructors worked their way through the document on their own time at their own pace. But because it was all together in our GooseChase app, they were able to see the submissions from the other instructors. So we did have sort of an asynchronous brainstorming session about the digital literacy framework, and we were able to explore it that way. We got a lot of really positive feedback from our instructors. Mostly, I think, the change of pace, something different, for gamifying of the learning experience and presenting it in a new way. And so we were really encouraged by the feedback that we received from that professional learning, and that sort of gave us the momentum to take it into our English as a second language program. And that's where we are now. So we created an English as a second language challenge. I've been collaborating with one of our wonderful instructors. Her name is Stephanie Smith, and she's been absolutely awesome. We met via Zoom to discuss where her students were, what they needed, what they needed the most practice on. And then we also looked at their CASA's competencies profile, the class profile, to look at areas of need that were consistent across the students. So we noticed a lot of students were having trouble with this competency. We made it a mission. Things that were supporting what she was doing in her class, we made it a mission, and we were able to put together about 40 missions for her students to work on outside of class, sort of like a homework assignment, but way more fun. So that's where we started, and we were fortunate enough to be able to introduce that game face-to-face. Our county was back in person, socially distant, with masks and screeners and sanitizers and the whole works, but we were back in person for a short period of time between, I guess, the end of September through mid-November. We got closed back down again, but she was able to teach the orientation to the program in person, which was really great, and get them started on it. She started with a idiom of the day and talked about what it means to go on a wild goose chase with her English as a second language students. She helped them sign up, and she helped walk them through the first mission. And then from there, they just went with it. They caught on very quickly. They've been using the Goose Chase to just sort of strengthen those areas that needed the most support. But you can absolutely focus your game on just one topic. But for this first one with English as a second language, we kind of said we're going to use this as test prep and support and just things to supplement what she was already doing in class. Oops. And then for ABE, I have not used it for ABE yet, but we have had a couple of instructors express interest in doing it with their students. So I think that will be our next project. I would like to show you. There is a game library. If I go to goosechase.com/edu, I should mention there's a corporate version for like corporate events and icebreaker team building types of activities, but goosechase.edu is the one we want because it is free to educators. They have a huge game library. So you
Jennifer,
can
are you showing us that right now? Because we can only see your slide deck.
Oh, no.
Maybe you can pause your sharing.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you. How's that?
Yes, we can see it now.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. So yes, goosechase.com/edu, and there are pages and pages of teacher submitted games that you are welcome to use. This is currently just in alphabetical order, but you can filter it by topic or grade level, things like that. They are submitted by teachers. They are not created by GooseChase, so you would have to check them to make sure that there are no errors or that it meets the criteria for what you're doing. But you can just click into one and get ideas, or you can just borrow the whole game and edit it from there. So here's an example where a teacher has asked her students to find pictures that represent the meaning of these vocabulary words. So just a real simple, quick game that you could play in one class period, as opposed to the one that we're doing in our English as a second language class where they're working on it for several weeks, and we just keep adding missions to it. Okay.
We're still looking at the website.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
I also have like 1,000 things open. How are we doing now?
While you're doing that, someone in the chat box was asking if they have to set up an account or if they should go in as a guest today.
When we play today, you will go in as a guest, but your students can play either way. There's also a way to log in through Facebook if they if they would prefer to do it that way. Lots of ways to get in there. All right,
You can see the slide deck now, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to share with you some of the positive outcomes that we've noticed from using GooseChase. An increase in engagement, an overall across the board appreciation for just something kind of new and different. Everybody's been stuck at home. It's been a tough year, and people are starting to feel a little zoomed out or webinared out. And so having something a little bit different has been appreciated. We found that community building has always been a huge key to our retention in our program. Students feel like they're part of the group and they never want to miss class as a result. And COVID has really challenged that aspect of our program, but we found that it still can be done in Zoom meetings and with the use of GooseChase, because it does have that social media vibe to it, and it does have that shared experience that students can relate to. And so we found that it has helped to keep students coming to class in what is a difficult year for retention, in my opinion. We found that it's very accommodating to different personalities. Naturally, it's ideal for your competitive student who wants to be first place and do all the things and win all the stuff. But we've also found that it's really appealing to some of our shyer students or students lacking confidence, because it gives them more control. You're not being called on, so you complete the mission at your speed when you feel comfortable. If you take a video of yourself using English, you're practicing your English and you mess up or you get frustrated or it doesn't meet your standards, you can re-record and resubmit. You don't turn it in until you're ready. So we found that that element of control and that not being on the spot has really led to increased participation with some of our other students that we wouldn't normally expect. And the best part about GooseChase is somebody always surprises you. Somebody has been hiding a wild sense of humor or an element of their personality, and GooseChase brings it out. So we've really enjoyed that part of GooseChase with people showing different sides of themselves, because it does bring in an element of their personal lives and their personalities. Because you are in control of what the missions ask students to do, it's very easy to tailor the game to exactly what your students or your staff need. And with the different elements of the digital literacy framework, it's not even a stretch to hit all 7 of those in one game with just the different things that GooseChase can do. So let's show you what I mean. So if you would please, just so you can see what we're talking about and kind of experience it for yourself, you're going to open your app if you have it, select play as guest, and then I made us a really tiny quick sample game to check out. So you can either search for it using Maryland VTI sample game, or there's a place to enter a code, and our code is VJE61G. It will ask you for a password. It's MDVTI. And then you can just enter your first name or a nickname. You don't need to put your full name in there, but you would join. And then there's a mission for you to introduce yourself. If you're not feeling camera ready today, there is another mission about the view from here that you could complete instead if you prefer not to do that. But I'm going to see what I can do. Okay. The other thing I think somebody asked, you don't actually upload the photos. It was in the chat box. You have to take the evidence in the app. So because otherwise you could pretty much just Google images of whatever you needed, I guess, and upload them. So you do have to take the photo or the video or type the text directly from the app. You cannot pull from your camera roll. And you are not supposed to use computer images. So you're supposed to be creating that evidence yourself. Some people opt to say, you're allowed to use a computer for this mission or things like that, where they would have to take a picture of another screen. And that's obviously up to you as the game creator, but you aren't uploading the photos, but you are taking them yourself within the app. Check the chat. Thank you, Jamie. Oh. These are great. Look at you guys. Getting the hang of it. Awesome. So I'm going to give you, if anyone has questions, yes, students can see their submissions, and we'll go over that next, actually. These are great. You guys are awesome. Great job. Okay, so they're still coming in, but if you, this is especially for those who can't download the app right away. This is a screenshot from our ESL game. We can see that, right? Okay. So this is a screenshot from some of the missions of our ESL challenge, and we have a bunch, but there are just a couple here. It filters your missions by the ones that you have remaining to complete and your completed ones. And as I mentioned before, I took my selfie earlier today, and right before we started this, I'm like, I don't like it. So I went into my completed and pulled it back up and took another one. So students can go back and change after the fact, and those would be the ones that you would find that are completed. But mostly you want to see the ones you have left to do, and that's how it defaults. The next tab over is the feed. So if you're in the app right now, nice. Okay, so if you're in the app right now, you can pull the feed right from that second icon and see, oh, somebody's puppy. See all of the things that are popping up in the feed, and that's everyone. If you go to the next one over, that's the leaderboard. Notifications will let you know when somebody likes your submission, or when you have messages from the game organizer, the teacher, you know, about bonus points or feedback. You can directly message, and I'll show you in a bit, directly message students to say, hey, you didn't really follow directions on this one. I'd like you to complete it. Or if you just want to say, hey, I loved your submission for occupational hazard, that mission, you know, you could send them individual feedback, or you can send a message to the whole group like, hey, we've got a new leader, Dougie Fresh is winning. You guys better get back into GooseChase and take him, you know, out of the top spot. You could send that message to the whole group. Or, you know, if something is tricking or tripping up the whole group, you could also mention that as well. So all those things would pop up for your students under the notifications. And then lastly, my activity will show you just your submissions. It'll tell you how many submissions you have and how many total points you have. So you can see that in that last section. Okay. The chat seems quiet. Awesome. Okay. Oop, there's chat. Okay. So does anyone have any questions so far? The next section is really about how to build your own and how to set that up. And it's also intertwined. It's kind of hard to find a good way to explain it linearly. But if you have questions, now would be a good time. If not, I'll get into how to set one up for yourself. Yes, Doug, great question. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I did not think that this many people would show up to my session. I apologize if you couldn't get in. Yes, there is a user limit. I'm in a very, very, very small program, so I've never hit my user limit. This is sad for me because I can't let you in, but also really exciting because I didn't think this many people would come. Let me show you that. So there is a free version and it does have limits. I have too many things open here.
We're looking
you guys see my pricing?
The slide deck right now.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Are we good?
Yes.
All right. So Educator Basic is actually where I'd recommend that everyone start. It is the free version until you're sure whether or not you plan on using it. That would just be my recommendation. I do not prefer Basic especially when everyone's stuck at home, because basic requires you to play in teams, which would be great in a regular classroom setting. I could really see a lot of great games that could be done that way. However, if I currently am playing in team mode and my teammate completes a mission, then I cannot complete that mission because my teammate already has on behalf of our team. So I pay for the Educator Plus, and you can see I'm limited to 40 participants. Again, I apologize. I did not think that I would even have 10 people come, let alone more than 40. So I apologize, but that's also really exciting that so many people are here. It's $50 a year. And you can see there are limits to things, and it goes all the way up. And then if you are at a university and your university wants to do it, there's a whole different pricing structure for them. I should mention, I don't work for GooseChase, I'm just a fan. But if you have questions, I'd be happy to help you sort them out. I know everyone's coming from different situations, different programs. My program's really small, but I know we've got a lot of larger programs on the call today. So Educator Plus would probably work for a lot of people because you're not going to have necessarily 40 participants in each class. And what you can do is if you make one game that you want to use for one type of class, you can duplicate that game for the different class sections, and they can be playing in their own, or you could have multiple sections battling it out. It depends on your program, and I'd be happy to address those. But that's the one I'm currently using is the Educator Plus. But again, you might want to consider Education or Educator Basic just to try it out and play around with it. That's how I started, just to figure out how everything works. And they're really, GooseChase is really supportive. They have great customer service. Every time I've had a question, they get right back to me. They're really encouraging of just, hey, just do one for fun and try it out and play it or play around with it and figure out what you want to do. And so they've been really helpful with that so far. But I just have it for a little me. So Educator Plus. But you can see the pricing structure goes up. And we also, as adult education, sort of fall into a gap because it does say K through 12. And then they do have something different for universities. But when I contact them about, well, where does adult ed really fall? Because some of us are housed in different places and we're usually teaching, high school or K through 12 content. And they encourage me to use this one, not the university one. So again, it's going to depend on your situation, but the Educator Basic is free. Are there any questions about that? Again, I don't work for them, but I just a fan. Okay, can you guys see my game?
It says game info. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to go into how to build your game. It's very user-friendly, very easy to do. It does have several pieces, but again, I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, I have documents that go along with my presentation from GooseChase. So it has all the links and all the steps. So if you're trying to frantically take notes, don't worry about it. All that information will be available with my PowerPoint straight from GooseChase, but they do make it pretty easy. So step one is to set up your game information. You can upload an image like I've done, but it's not required. The only things they make you do are create the game name and a description so that your students can find it and make sure that they're in the right place. And then I highly recommend putting a password on all of your games just so that you don't have anyone show up uninvited. You hit save and continue. And then you're working on your missions. So you can see this is the game that I have set up for us. It only has 3 missions so far. You have the option to write your own missions from scratch, which is what I usually do. GooseChase has their own bank of missions, but keep in mind, these are more icebreaker, team building, definitely written before COVID. You'll see a lot of things in the examples about being out in public in groups, which, seems crazy now, but, how we've changed in less than a year. But they have lots to choose from. And if you decided that you wanted to use one of them, all you have to do is hover over here. And if I wanted to add Beautiful Mind to our game, I would just click add and it would dump it into our game. As you use it, it keeps track of missions that you've used before. So if you build yourself a bank of English as a second language, missions, you could pick and choose and dump them into games as you go along. Same for AE. You could have a whole bank of math questions and you could dump them into different games as you go along. And those are stored here. But if we're creating a mission from scratch, all we have to do is hit add mission to list. I'm going to choose either a photo or video mission or a text mission. Again, I don't use the GPS. I never have. And most of our students are working from home, so it just doesn't really seem appropriate in this context. But so if I wanted to do a photo or video mission, I need to pick a name. I assign it a point value. You can use one from their drop-down menu, or if you scroll all the way down, you can type your own points, whatever you want it to be. And then you tell your students what you want them to accomplish, or your teachers, to complete the mission. So okay, so take a picture of yourself wearing your mask properly. This was actually our tutorial mission that Stephanie did with her students. Again, we were face-to-face for a brief period of time. And so everyone was wearing a mask, everyone was prepared for the mission. And so she walked them through how to complete this one and submit their mask model pictures. And so after that, you would just hit save changes. Please note that you can add images, you can add links. We won't get into too much of that today, but if you wanted to have students analyzing a graph or a sign, or you wanted them to go visit a website to research something, all those things can be embedded very easily. And so it does help hit a lot of those aspects of the digital literacy framework. So I'm actually not going to save that one because I'm assuming not too many people are wearing masks right now. Hopefully you guys are safe at home. But if I wanted to do a text mission where the submission would be via text, same. Oh, I have to cancel that one. Give it a name, give it a point value. Okay, so for text missions, you have the opportunity to have a right answer or right answers. So math people, science people, vocabulary, professional learning, if you want to quiz somebody, you can do it via text and you could put an accepted answer or answers. So it will let you do more than one right answer. If you want it to be an open-ended question like this one, there's no right answer to this one, right? So we would leave that box blank and it will accept all of the answers. If you're doing a mission that requires or that has a right answer, you don't want that for everyone to see, because then the first person, if we ask what's 2 + 2 and somebody posts 4, then all the other students can just copy that answer. Text, if I go to advanced settings, text missions default to hidden in feed for that reason. So if somebody completed this mission right now, nobody else would see it. And that's just simply so students can't copy off of each other. However, if it's a brainstorming mission, like this one, we would just change it to shown in feed so that when people answer the response, they'd be able to see each other's responses. So I'm going to save that one. So if you refresh your missions list in your app, you should see this now. You can see that I'm answering, I'm accepting all the answers and it's shown in the feed. But again, if you had a right answer, you know, the answer is 37, you would definitely want to keep that hidden so that other students couldn't copy. I think I need to go. Was there a question in the chat box?
It looks like you've answered all the one. The recent one was about the user limit.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, are we back to the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, so if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes just to help with the brainstorm, either in the GooseChase app or in the chat box, just with some ideas as to how you might use GooseChase in your program, just so we can sort of share around. Let's take 2 minutes to do that. Okay, so we have brainstorming essay topics, homework follow-up. Yes, getting to know the students. Yes, there's a lot of math examples in the library. Oh, I can't keep up. Yes, yes, awesome. So recycling, icebreaker for orientation, vocabulary. Yes, yeah, the vocabulary. Video journals, cool. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a great icebreaker. The trickiest part is getting them to try one. If you can get them to try one, they'll probably do all of them. Nice. Let me see. I forgot to pull up the app. Okay, so Brianna says this would be a great way to have students review grammar. Yes, signage, language, they see it. Yeah, that's been the coolest part. Since everyone can't come to class, we can at least take advantage of everyone in their daily lives. So signs at work, maps, different, just their English in their world and what they encounter, and being able to add that personal touch has been really motivating. Dylan, what is it? Excuse me 1 minute. I'm so sorry. Okay, go. Close the door, please. Sorry. Oh, man. Yes. Okay. So yes, we have not used it in corrections. That is definitely a challenge. But yeah, vocabulary practice. Oh, that's cool. Find a map in your house and identify 3 map elements. Can I borrow that one? Yes. Oh, these are so great. Okay. So if you have the app, or if you have the comprehension check. Yes. The building confidence. That's huge. That's huge. These are awesome. Thank you guys so much. Yes. Oh, there are I mean, COVID, right? But there are lots of examples of different field trip ones in the game library. Yeah, virtual Christmas. I've actually done one of those for my family before. Yeah, there's these are great. Yes. So yeah, field trips. There's a lot of math ones, science ones, great for vocabulary. We know a lot of our English as a second language students, you know, the whole idea of speaking and practicing that, but being able to do it in sort of a modified way where they have more control over it has really bolstered the confidence of a lot of our students. Yes. The students that we have done this with more intermediate advanced English as a second language students, but if they're comfortable with a smartphone, it is not difficult. And I have taught people of all ages and places in their educational journeys how to use it virtually. It is not, I mean, ideally, yeah, we would be sitting in the same room, you know, modeling it for students, but it is not difficult to do virtually. Yes, they can see each other's answers if you set it to shown in feed. So if you hide it from the feed, no, only the person who submitted it and the teacher will be able to see it. But if you set it to be shown in feed, then everyone will be able to see everything else. So it's just usually the ones that have right answers that you would lock down so that other students wouldn't be able to copy. Are there any other questions so far? Thank you guys for your participation. Awesome. I would just sit here and look through them all if I wasn't presenting. Okay, so a couple more things for building your game. Really the challenge is deciding what you want your missions to be and writing them in a thoughtful way so that students don't get confused as to what they're supposed to do. But beyond that, you need to schedule your game, which is either automatic or manual. Automatic, you just pick a start date and time and a stop date and time. But if you wanted to do it manually, you could say it's going to run for an hour or a day or a week from whenever you launch it. I usually do automatic because I usually do them for longer stretches of time. But if we were meeting face to face, I would love to make some quick short ones that you could just do as like a one class period experience and then build from there. Let me switch over and I will show you, oops. Okay. So again, everything that you need, are we seeing my game again?
Yes.
Thank you. Everything that we need is over here on the left. So the start and stop, you can see I've got this one set already. And then you would invite participants to join and you would just go to participants and you can click this link. You can see I have individual players as an option again, because I have the paid version, but you can just click on that and it will give you something that you can copy and paste to send to your students. You can click this link right here and just enter their individual emails. But I think it's probably easier just to give them the game code. And then GooseChase has some nice materials that are available in PDF and Word formats that you can edit, but they are laid out with not only how to join the game, but also how to play and all the like kind of nitty gritty details that we are going over today. So that's your participants. You invite them to play. And then once the game launches, you can play with, I usually play along with my students or my staff. But you would just want to monitor to make sure nobody's miscuing or if anyone's having trouble with the technology, or you just monitor the game and enjoy the feed. It's always really fun to read through what the students submit and to look through the photos and the videos. You would want to keep an eye out and just make sure everybody stays on the right track. But again, let me show you. You go to the leaderboard. This is fun because we have participants now. Go, Angela. And Bongo and Dougie Fresh. Look at all you guys. All right. So this is the leaderboard is where obviously you can see how people are doing score wise, but I could send a message to everyone, or I could say, you know, oh, Angela, I see that you didn't follow the directions on this mission. Could you please go resubmit it? Or, hey, Bongo, great job on that last mission. You could adjust scores as you need to, or you could remove a team either that got in by accident or is no longer eligible to play. So here's the activity feed for those that don't have the app. Love it. So you can see what everybody's submitting. And then the submissions tab over here will group them by, so we can see we have 29 submissions from Introduce Yourself. Awesome. So you can see the submissions grouped by the mission, or you could sort them by teams or, and then most recently they've added this feature of dashboard where it gives you all kinds of data. It's coming. Okay, so you can see we have 35 active participants. We've had 89 submissions already today, and it has all these features on what people are doing, and you can see the most liked submissions. But this is new, but also kind of fun. I've done in the past where I've awarded bonus points for, you could do the most liked or the most creative or most clever, and sort of celebrate your students that way. Okay, and then the last part is really when the game is over, having some sort of wrap up with your students where you review the experience, get their feedback, celebrate the successes of, what did we accomplish, what did we improve upon, and then use the data from GooseChase to help you with what you need to reteach. So Stephanie and I found that students were having a really tough time with the concept of cross streets. And so we definitely wrote submissions for that, but then we were monitoring their submissions to make sure that they really did, get it, because she taught it in class, and then we followed up with the mission. So things like that to debrief and just get their feedback to both improve upon your game for next time, but also just sort of check in with the needs of your students. Submissions are grouped by mission, but you can also go in and click on a student and see all of their submissions. GooseChase has teacher ambassadors who, work with GooseChase to provide feedback. I'm not one of them, but these are their tips. They recommend building a test game and just trying it out, just one for fun. As I mentioned, you can start with a small group of missions and then edit or add to them as you go. So the first one I ever did was 40 missions, and I thought that was more than enough and plenty, but it was a 2-month game. And it caught on so quickly, they were done. And they were like, where are the rest of them? And I was like, wait, I thought I was done. And that first game ended up being 100 missions, and people completed all 100. Several people completed all of them. It just blew my mind, but it's fun, and it caught on, and they did a really great job. So don't be afraid to start small and then add where you need to add. As we looked at before, there's lots of ideas in the library. You could try one of those. I saw this as a tip, and I was really relieved because I did this anyway, but I always add in a few just for fun, just because it brings me joy. But we found that actually serves a real purpose, in that there will always be some that are intimidated or just think that they're not interested. But if you can get them to try some of those fun, silly ones in the beginning, sometimes it catches on. With our professional learning GooseChase, I had a teacher, she said, I'm just swamped and everything's overwhelming right now, and I just don't think I'm going to get it done on time. And I said, it's okay. If you can, try some, and if not, we'll meet and figure out, we'll meet via Zoom, and we will break down the digital literacy framework just together, you and me. Like, don't stress yourself out about it, because the world is stressful enough right now. And she's just like, yeah, I don't think I can do it. And I was just like, okay, just if you can try a couple. She finished the whole thing. She was like, well, I tried one. And then she's like, and then I felt like doing another one. And then it just led to her completing the entire assignment. It took her, a while, but she just sort of got into it. So those fun ones are great icebreakers for the students too, especially if you think they might be a little bit intimidated. You get them hooked with a couple of those really fun, engaging ones where they get to be silly or get to express their personality. And then the content and the challenge part really does follow. They recommend that a teacher or a colleague review your game. You definitely want to make sure that your mission wording is clear, because things are open to interpretation. So you definitely want to make sure that somebody else lays eyes on your game before you launch it. And then if you have colleagues that are willing to create games as well, then you can share your games with them to increase your mission banks. So I saw the chat. I was okay. I kind of got myself in trouble here because I promised both my staff and my students that when we did this, that I would not, blast their photos and their submissions on the internet. So I wanted to create a safe environment for them. I'm trying to think of which one I could show you where I wouldn't get in trouble with anyone. I had to respect their privacy. I wanted them to feel safe in sharing. I can show missions, but maybe not submissions. That'd be okay? I can do that. Okay. I knew that was gonna be a problem because I knew you'd want to see, because who wouldn't? Okay. Thank you for your patience.
There are a couple questions in the chat. What level of English are those students? How does it work with low literacy students?
Most of our students that are currently doing the ESOL challenge are intermediate to advanced. And we have not done this with pre-literacy or very low literacy students. But I think, I mean, especially if, I think that you could find a place for that for sure. It would be definitely easier to do. Easier to do if we were face-to-face. Share with you guys. Okay. All right, are we seeing the missions?
Yes.
Okay. So, so as I mentioned, we're from Worcester County, Maryland, and this class is actually based in Ocean City. So you'll see some of them relate specifically to the region. But we have 31 missions currently. So some of them are just easy breezy, like take a picture of your favorite place to study, giving us like a virtual tour of part of your house or your yard. Yes, thanks, Doug. It could be a great way to introduce today's content. And we used it. Oh, I missed another one. Okay, so reading a menu. We had them go to this external link to use the website, the #1 song at the time of their birth, setting goals, involving their work, reading a set of instructions, cooking, understanding medical information. Okay, the safety sign and telling us what it means in the caption, things like that. So a couple more things to consider. The submissions do have limits. GooseChase says that they do that, especially with the video, to be respectful of people's data plans. But the video is limited to 15 seconds. So you couldn't ask your students to, make a huge speech or anything on GooseChase, but I found that it's not as limiting as it seems. The text mission is 300 characters. And then I always encourage people to use captions in writing their missions. So like the one with taking a picture of a safety sign, that's fine in and of itself, but you can take it to that next level by asking them to explain what it means. What is the sign trying to tell you in the caption and things like that? So captions are limited to 140 characters, but it hasn't been too restrictive. But you need to be aware when you're writing your missions that, hey, the seconds of the video is limited. They can't have a really long submission there. The other thing Stephanie and I came across when creating missions for English as a second language students is that there's a temptation to accidentally create missions that would have them reveal sensitive information, because a lot of the CASAS competencies are real life things like banking information, pay stubs, they're reading a prescription label. So things like that, where it would be really tempting to incorporate those things, but you just need to be mindful that you wouldn't want to accidentally lead someone to post information online that shouldn't be posted. Even though it is in a private game, it should not be in there. So just something to think about, because we kept thinking, oh, it'd be nice to be able to ask questions about these things, but you would have to go and find a mock-up of something and add that image to the mission, rather than having students submit things that have personal identifiable information on it. So just something to be mindful of. And then lastly, in our games, we try to allow students to have a little bit of wiggle room, so that we always have a couple more missions than we require them to do. So for example, for our professional learning game, we required teachers to get 15,000 points. It sounds extreme, but I promise you it was reasonable. 15,000 points in order to get credit for completing the activity. But that did allow them to skip maybe 1 to 3 of the silly, fun missions, or maybe 1 or 2 of the tougher content questions, just because we felt like, especially as a student, but also as a faculty member, if I have to do every single one, including that one I really don't want to, or I'm not comfortable, or I just really don't understand, then it sort of feels pass fail, and we didn't want anyone to give up before it began. So I always encourage people to just allow just a little bit of flexibility. So if somebody's really, really uncomfortable, they don't want to take a picture of themselves, or whatever, whatever mission just maybe it doesn't appeal to them, that they are allowed to sort of wiggle out of 1 or 2, especially if they just truly don't understand, or they are just feeling uncomfortable about one of them, because it is new for some people to be able to do something like that. So let me see. Chat box. Thank you guys. I'm going to pull up Ask Away to make sure that did I answer everyone's questions? Yes, Marianne, that's okay. I like your sense of humor. Okay, so what categories of digital scavenger hunts are most popular? Math, reading, social studies, science, or fun? I mean, I've had requests. I've made them for all sorts of situations, educational and personal. And it's sort of just the platform that ends up being really popular. People get into the spirit of the game, and I've seen it be successful across a lot of different content areas. And so I'm really looking forward to sort of branching out into ABE and other areas. But as you can see from the game library, it's a great way to do like a field trip. It's a great way to focus on one topic, or like with our ESOL one, just sort of provide additional support to things that they're already working on in class. Students, Larna, that the students pick it up very, very quickly. Yeah, it's very intuitive, especially if they're already comfortable with a smartphone. It's basically a scaled down version. Even if they're not comfortable on social media, it's very quick to pick up. Did I miss anyone else's question? So many great ideas in the brainstorm. Thank you guys for sharing all of those.
There's a question in the chat. How many games do you use during a class session, or do you keep adding missions to the same game?
I've seen it both ways. It depends on your situation. When we go back face to face, I think we'll see more of this is the topic we're talking about in class tonight, and this almost like a stations activity. If you guys ever do those kinds of things, it would sort of replace that, where you have the students up and moving around and working collaboratively. So I would see, again, we would need to be back face to face, but doing a lot of those 1 to 2 hour games where it's just isolated within one class period. But then it's been such a community building thing for our ESOL community to have it be this ongoing thing, where, you know, you come to class and you talk about, oh, I came up the leaderboard, or I saw your submission for masked model, and it's been common ground to again work on that community piece. So I think both formats will work well. It's just really like tapping into what your students need right now, and then where we're headed in the future, and being able to provide those tailored to the needs of your program.
So, Jennifer, thank you so much for everything you've shared today. I love this tool because, one, you figured out a way how to work with learners at home or remotely. You've also figured out a way for community to be built, which helps with retention. So thank you so much for sharing this. For the participants here, there is a feedback survey link in the chat. Please complete that. Once we log off of this session, you'll also see a feedback survey, so you could do one or the other. We'd really appreciate you to complete that. It'll help us for future VTIs. Also, if you need a proof of participation, there's a link there. Please complete that at the end when you've viewed all the sessions this week. So before I end the session, Jennifer, is there anything else you wanted to share before we close out today?
No, I just really appreciate everyone attending. And again, if there's any way I can answer questions I did not answer today, my email's right there, hopefully on the screen. Just go ahead and shoot me an email. Also, those two guides, the quick start checklist and the teacher's guide, will be available with my PowerPoint, and it's all the steps, and there are links in there. And it's a great tool if you want to try it out.
Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Thanks for
Thank you
joining
guys
us.
for coming. I appreciate it.